If you're not careful, you can be so careful all the time that you never move into the places of potential. Again, there are going to be some ups and downs. Life is full of that. There's going to be turbulence along this journey, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is God has given you this opportunity to steward life. He's given you a husband or a wife if you're married. He's given you kids if you're parenting. Mm-hmm. So again, in doing that, and we talked about marriage mainly last time, that you risk it all to have it all, that your love relationship is worth that. Your home, it matters. You're there to make a difference. Welcome to Home Matters. Welcome to Home Matters. How about that? Is that good?
Okay.
Did I start it right? I don't always get to start these. So.
Don't get to. It's because you tell me to start them.
But I like to start sometimes. I'm just willing to give up, give you the opportunity to start because you're so cheery and delightful.
Delightful.
Yep, we are glad you're here.
Glad to know. I'm glad you're here. You're so delightful. I'm glad you're here too.
I was with a buddy of mine the other day. I was out fishing, and he said, "If you do that, I'd be forever grateful." I said, "Man," you just went all spiritual on me all of a sudden. Forever grateful. Yeah.
Wow.
I'd be forever grateful if you do that.
Okay. Well, you started the podcast today, so I am forever grateful.
Hey, we are glad you're here. We know that you may be doing some different things today.
Might be going on vacation.
Yeah. Might be even exercising,
Exercising. Where'd that come from?
Well, you got them earbuds. I tried to get some the other day. I tried to buy some. I thought I was going to get a bargain on them, and I missed them.
You didn't?
Yep.
Oh, well.
But we're glad you're listening.
We are glad that you are listening. Actually, we are kind of just taking off where we left off last time with Home Matters. So if you missed maybe the previous episode, that would have been 151. Yeah, maybe jump back in there and listen. We're talking about taking risk in family life. Okay, we're not talking about, driving your family off a mountain or something. That's not the kind of risk we're talking about, right?
Yeah, not talking about going speed racing or anything like that.
No, but what we are talking about is making sure that you are always pressing, pushing, moving forward.
Is that okay? Simply put, living a life of faith.
Okay.
Living a life of faith in your marriage, living a life of faith in raising your kids. It should be foundationally something that is ingrained in you. That's what you're called to live by. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. We talked about that last time, Hebrews 11:6, that life of faith. Hebrews 11, most of you probably have heard this. It's a chapter. It's the heroes of faith.
Heroes of faith.
And how people stepped out in places that were uncomfortable, unpleasant, and risked everything.
Yeah, even when they saw danger.
Exactly.
Some of them just walked right into danger. And many of you, if you've listened to us any at all, you've heard us say before, ask the question before, who's going to be the hero?
Yeah.
In your relationship as husband and wife, who is going to take the step? Who is going to, maybe jump into that hard conversation that you don't like to have? Or who's going to step out?
Emotionally vulnerable.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who's going to step out and show affection?
Yep.
Who's going to do those things to always keep us moving forward?
Always realize, and again, we said that with that, there's wisdom. There's the Word of God that we want.
That will lead us.
We inquire. We embrace truth and principle that we live by. Again, but even with that, there will be times that you're called into a place, in relationship. That you're gonna risk everything. You're gonna be completely exposed and vulnerable. You're taking a chance on this love. You're taking a chance on this intimacy. You're taking a chance on this conflict resolution. You're taking a chance in all those places, and you're taking a chance with raising kids.
We want to kind of look at that aspect today.
That's the thing that I would hope that more than anything, that when we're talking about playing it safe, that the people maybe listening realize maybe I've been kind of in my little cocoon and in my little protective bubble, and I'm not pressing it all.
Don't we do that?
I'm not pushing it all. I'm not risking anything. You know, as long as I can logically figure out how this is going to work for me and keep me comfortable, then that's kind of the places that we operate. But there's something greater than that that you're called to. And again, throughout the Scripture, I mean, Jesus taught us that.
Well, I don't think you can look at the life of Jesus. You can't read the Gospels and follow him and his disciples and say, Jesus did everything safe. Right. No, he was always, just kind of pushing against. He was always stepping out into play. And that's the way he led his disciples. Yeah,
I mean, the parable of the talents, great.
I love that one. Yeah.
Matthew 25, he gives one 5, gives one 2, and gives one 1 talent. And the only person that got rebuked
was the one that did nothing.
That played it safe.
Yeah, he played it safe.
He thought he was playing it safe anyway.
And we hear that passage and we talk about stewardship, and absolutely that's what it's talking about. But that is exactly what we're talking about. And stewardship.
How much are we stewarding?
How much we have been given, how much we've been blessed with. And today, as we kind of shift this whole thing and look at our kids, man, what a blessing, what God has dropped in our life and in our lap to steward. And sometimes I think we misunderstand stewardship as just protecting and covering and go ahead.
Well, life is an adventure, period.
Yeah, I think I said that last time. But it's an adventure if you're married to Eric Boggs. I can say that for sure.
I love this quote. Well, we do that together, though. I love this quote by Dan Ryland. I wanted you to read it.
I love it. Yes. Look, he said, leaders move things forward even when it's hard to see around the corner.
Ooh, I love that.
Absolutely. Again, it kind of goes back to who's going to be the hero here. Like, who's going to step out of the comfort zone? Who's going to step out of just the same old routine and maybe step into something that you don't know what's going to happen or you don't know how it's going to be received.
When you can't see around the corner. You're still moving forward.
But God said go.
When you don't see it all or don't even know it, understand. Again, when you haven't got a surefire answer when it comes to your returns. Again, you're gonna invest in this and this place, and the market may be good, it may be bad, but you're gonna. And again, people do that on a regular, and especially things that they can't touch. Maybe their retirement, or they can't. They can sit. Some of them look at it all the time, drive themselves crazy. Let me give you a good tip today: stop looking at it all the time.
Stop it.
It'll settle you. But again, I love that. I love the fact that there are times in life that you just keep moving, even though you don't see what's around the bend, around the corner. The bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. Famous Tony Miller quote that I always used. But again, I just think that's so true in every area of our life, especially in our marriage, especially in raising kids.
In leading a family,
That other one there.
Listen at this one. And this, I wasn't familiar with this guy until I came across his quote. Paul Tournier, he's actually, he was a physician.
I don't know him.
He did a lot with pastoral counseling and authored a lot of books. But listen, he said, all of us have vast reservoirs of full potential. I absolutely believe that, don't you?
Love the quote, yeah.
Look, but the roads that lead to those reservoirs are guarded by the dragon of fear. Yeah, that's big, isn't it?
That's sound effect there.
You're good at those. I'm the sound effects person, though. Yeah. But look, can I change that wording out and say by the dragon of safety and our failure to take the risk? Think about what it said. I mean, vast reservoirs full of potential. We are created, your kids are created in the image of God. I mean, talk about potential. All the gifts, the talents, the love, the intimacy, the things that he intends for us to accomplish, the ways he intends for us to be productive. We are full of potential. But
Yeah, and
our
if,
safety.
and if you live, and again, this becomes kind of a culture
Yeah.
kind of thing. I think
For
that we
sure.
create in our homes with our families and leading our family. I think that if you're not careful, you can be so careful all the time that you never move into the places of potential. Again, there are going to be some
sure.
ups and downs. Life is full of that. There's going to be
Yes.
turbulence along this journey, right? But the reality is God has given you this opportunity to steward life. He's given you a husband or a wife if you're married. He's given you kids if you're parenting. So again, in doing that, and we talked about marriage mainly last time, you know, that you risk it all to have it all, that your love relationship is worth that. And we hope you realize that, man,
I love what you just said. You didn't say that last time.
what I say?
You risk it all to have it all.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I believe that though.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was saying anything that wonderful, but again, we kind of live that. We
No,
kind of
I just-
live that, I think, through our days and our times, and you know,
Well,
we're
I think
further
we just
along in
said
life.
it though. If you're going to have everything that God intends for you to have, there are going to be some places where you're not going to know what to expect. You just have to step
That's
in
right.
in faith and trust Him.
You know, a great need for most people is security, especially for women.
yeah.
Right? You need security.
Right.
And that thing, again, that need for security pushes against some of the stuff we're talking about. Now, again, women are not the only ones. Men want that too. We want the comfort and ease. But, you know, we talk about that now. Let's look at it just a little bit with children. You know, because we don't want to live foolishly. We don't want to live without, you know, a sense of knowing what God's saying to us and in wisdom.
Exactly.
But how do you take risk? I mean, when we're talking about risking it with raising kids, what are we trying to get to there? I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, when we first start talking about it, I go back to the passage of scripture that, you know, we built our whole Home Matters
Yep,
ministry
foundationally.
on.
Yep.
Foundationally. Yeah, Psalm 127. And we've talked about it so many times that our children, they're gifts, first
They're
of all,
blessing
from
from
the
the
Lord.
Lord,
They're a
right.
blessing from Him. Reminder, your kids are a blessing from Him. But then the picture there that He gives of them being arrows in the warrior's hand. And man, we've talked about it so many times. Our projecting them, shooting them, if you will, out into society and to different, you know, maybe communities than where we are, for them to be a light, for them to be a witness. I mean, if you take what the word says right there, anytime I shoot an arrow out somewhere, I'm taking a risk.
You
I
have
don't know
you
exactly
think that
where
you
it's
know
going.
well, if you're a good archer,
Yeah, I'm not.
you
So I'm
should
just
know.
saying, I
But
don't
again,
know where it's
even a
going.
good archer though.
Yeah,
there are a lot
you
of
don't have a guarantee.
There are a lot of variables, right?
You
with,
don't
with
have
a
a
good
guarantee.
archer, depending on the distance, and I've done some archery in my time, but
I know,
depending
you're
on
amazing.
the distance, you know, there can be wind variables, there can be obstructions,
Yes.
there can be distance. You know, all of that is in play. So
Something can pop up in front of you that you didn't see coming.
sure, but my point is this. And propelling, can I use the word propelling our children, projecting
Sure.
our children?
That's probably better than what
you know,
I said.
It comes with that. There's a certain risk involved that if I'm willing to release them, and that's the key, it'll never leave our
That's my
hand
baby.
until we let it go.
Oh,
And again, I think we were better at doing that with children than we are with our grandchildren. Honestly, I mean, our grandchildren we're more protective and see
probably.
more. Sometime, you know, my kids is like, hey, we're here to change the world. You're missionaries today. Get out there in that school or wherever you are and be a light in the darkness. You know, my babies are like, I ain't sending my little grandbabies into that mess. You know,
I know. We want to
that we
cover
see
them.
sometime
don't
out
we?
in society. But all we're saying is with that, there has to be principally, there has to be that sense of knowing that you do have to send your children. You do have to project them, propel them into a world. That's why
Yeah.
we're raising kids. We have the stewardship. We've been entrusted. They belong to the Lord.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people do that little dedication thing, say we're giving our children to the Lord.
But
You know.
are you really? Yeah. Are you willing to release them to go and to do everything that God's called them to do?
Yeah.
And I think of each of ours in different times in their life and different places they or things they felt like they needed to do. I didn't always feel real comfortable about releasing them to go do those things, especially after they got in their teenage years, early adulthood.
Even things that were good things.
Absolutely.
I mean,
a
even
mission
with
trip.
good people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't always like that. We had one that, wanted to go to another continent. We had another one that wanted to go to another continent. Then we, and they did those things, and they didn't always feel good. I remember one of my daughters going, she was going to be gone for 3 months, and I remember telling her, I said, the thing is I'm going to trust that you've heard God on this. Mm-hmm. You said teenager, yeah, teenagers, 16, 17 years old.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hold to the fact that you are hearing from God, and I'm going to let you go because you feel like God wants you to go do this thing, to serve in this again. Later we find out it's a kind of a dangerous
place.
I didn't know how dangerous it was
exactly
before. She probably
would have been a lot harder to let go if we'd have known on the front side what we found out on the back side.
Yeah, and in that, she spent sleepless nights, spent nights without water. I mean, all that I find out after. But again, what I'm saying is there has to come a place that you do realize that you're stewards and you have to release them. You have to release them to hear from God. You have to release them to follow Him. And you say, well, that's fine and well at a certain age. Yeah, you can make it that if you want to. But I remind you of Jesus. And you say, well, my kids are not Jesus. They're not. I agree. But there's a point that I think we can all learn. You remember in Luke's gospel, Jesus is lost from his family. And
where is he? They are looking everywhere.
Searching for him.
If I'd been Mary and Joseph, I would have wanted to take my little switch out when I got to Jesus.
They no doubt out of tanned his hide
out.
But he just kind of, they were on this journey back home from Passover. But anyway, Jesus is there. He's probably 12 years old, and he stayed behind. It says 3 days.
3 days.
They realized.
They're trying to figure out where
I've
he
always
is.
thought, why did they not miss him till 3 days into this journey? But again, they traveled in caravans and groups of people. They probably just thought he was staying with Uncle.
I don't know.
Uncle David or Uncle Hezekiah or somebody. But, when they find Jesus, you remember what he said? When they find him, he's in the temple. What's he say?
I'm about my Father's business.
Got to be doing
Why are you so stressed out, Mama? Chill. That's what he's saying.
And I think, even though our children, they are not Jesus, I do think that early on they can begin to recognize and sense the purposes of God for their life. And you got to give room for them to learn that and follow that.
That's so true.
I think that's so important for parenting.
The word is so clear in the purpose of this family. God blesses us with children, but why? It's to expand his kingdom. Is to grow his kingdom. And so this gift that he has given me in a child, and I think we would be amiss if we didn't say this, there's a huge responsibility there on the front side, early years. I mean, as young as you get started in preparing them for the mission.
Talking to them about that.
For the thing that God has prepared them for, that God has enabled them or gifted them to do. So you start those conversations, I believe, early in preparing them. And then...
I remember, my son, when he's a little boy, 4 or 5 years old, I'm talking to him about, the
You're
thing.
talking about the bathtub conversation?
Yeah, he's giving him a bath. And I'm talking to him about, and he's talking to me about ball. He loved ball.
Play ball.
He said, I'm going to be a ball player, Daddy, when I grow up. And I remember stopping him and saying, you know what, son?
But
more than anything, it's all right if you play ball, but more than anything, I want you to realize you're going to be a man of God.
Yes.
I want you to be the man God has called you to be. And I don't think you can start that conversation too early.
No.
But remember this, you'll take some risk.
You sure will.
If you're willing to release them, then they can change their world. But they will never change their world until you're willing to let them go. So that's what we're saying, man. You can't
I'm feeling this thing. I'm kind of emotional about that because I know.
You're thinking about your little boy, aren't you?
Well, no. All of them, but not just that. I'm thinking about your kids out there. I mean, I'm well aware, and please don't think we're ignorant
made fun of you
you're good, of the world and the culture that we live in. that is why I
Yeah.
think we said it a minute ago that it's harder maybe as grandparents. It's not just because it's grandkids. I think it's harder because of what we see going on in the world
Sure.
today.
No doubt.
But all the more reason that we've got to be the light.
Yeah.
Listen, darkness is we only find darkness when there's absence of the light.
Yeah. The reality is there's darkness all around us. And
Yeah.
again, when it comes to
It's overwhelming
what
sometimes, I feel like.
what we're striving for, what we're trying to say throughout this, really the last couple of teachings is we got to make sure that we're not living our lives
In a bubble.
in a bubble,
Yeah.
in this protective bubble that we try to keep ourselves and keep our children.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, don't let the culture of your home be one that just plays safe all the time.
That's right.
That's
Wh-
basically
whether-
what we're saying, right?
Yeah, married couple.
Yeah.
You know, we said it last time, husband, wife, children, if you are a single parent home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let us follow in the way of Jesus,
Yeah.
risking it all, for everything that he has for us, for our family, what he wants to accomplish
You like this
in our
earlier, but
life.
I'll say it again, risk it all to have it all.
Yeah, I love
And again,
it.
in your marriage, you got to be vulnerable, right? Emotionally,
Trust.
Conversationally.
Yeah.
You got to trust. You got to trust God. You got to trust each other, but also with raising kids too.
Yeah, man.
And that's not
it's tough.
easy. That is not easy when we look at our
Exactly.
little children.
It's hard. It's
it is
hard.
difficult,
But man,
but
God can use them, your family together, man, to make a difference. And that's the only way it's going to happen.
Faith.
It's the only way you'll make a difference.
Faith requires your trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to move into the place God has for you, your potential, that reservoir potential,
Yeah.
you'll have to risk it.
Gonna have
Risk
to
it all.
risk it all
And
to have it all.
And again, we just encourage
Yeah.
you, hey, always remember your home, it matters so much. If you're parenting, marriage matters so much. You make a difference out there.
We do, man. We love you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Your home matters.
Bye-bye.